They say the sky turned black with arrows. The ground shook with the march of tens of thousands of soldiers. And when the killing finally stopped 3 days later, the river ran red, not from symbolism, from blood, so thick it choked the fish, turned the water into mud, and left a stench that lingered for weeks. And yet, very few remember this war, and almost no one speaks of the battle that defined it. A battle so vicious, even the victors wept. This is the story of the Battle of the Yarmouk. Not Gettysburg, not Hastings, not Thermopylae, but Yarmouk, fought in 636 CE near the banks of a small river that straddled what is now the border between Syria and Jordan. A place no one expected would decide the fate of two empires. The aging, fractured Byzantine Empire, clinging to the last vestiges of Rome's ancient might, and the explosive, rising force of the Rashidun Caliphate, new, relentless, and burning with purpose. At first glance, the fight seemed absurd. The Byzantines outnumbered the Muslim forces by at least 2 to 1. Some say 3 to 1. They were better armed. They had elephants. They had cavalry. They had Roman discipline, imperial backing, and strategic high ground. And the Rashidun Caliphate? A loose coalition of desert tribes, barely unified, with a cause no one in Constantinople took seriously. But what the Byzantines didn't understand, what no empire truly sees until it's too late, was that these weren't just men fighting for land. They were fighting for something they believed was divine. And they were led by a man whose name should be etched beside history's greatest generals. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the sword of God. No one expected him. Not even the Prophet Muhammad, who once asked in awe, "Who can match Khalid in war?" He had fought as a pagan against the Muslims, then embraced Islam and became its fiercest defender. In less than a decade, he crushed the Persians, tore through Arabia, and now stood face to face with the Eastern Roman Empire, with 25,000 men against 60,000. But Khalid didn't care. He had something far more dangerous than numbers. He had belief and a plan. The battlefield stretched across wide plains and steep ravines, harsh, dry, and unforgiving. The river Yarmouk curved along the edge like a knife waiting to spill blood. And behind the Muslim army, cliffs. There was no retreat. The Byzantines, led by General Vahan, believed they could wait it out, use their size, grind the Arabs down with wave after wave. They had supply chains, reinforcements, and gold. What they didn't realize was that Khalid had turned that terrain into a trap. The battle lasted 6 days, not 6 hours. 6 days of relentless, brutal, blood-soaked combat. On day 1, the Byzantines launched their cavalry. Thunder rolled across the desert as horses clashed, metal rang, and dust blotted the sun. Khalid met them with lightning-fast counterattacks. His horsemen didn't fight to hold ground, they fought to break morale. Strike, retreat, encircle, vanish. And every time they pulled the Byzantines deeper, closer to the cliffs. By day 3, both sides were drenched in sweat and blood. The dead piled so high they formed obstacles. The desert heat became a weapon of its own. And still, the Byzantines pushed forward. Vahan believed he was close to breaking them. He had no idea that Khalid hadn't even started. On day 4, the Muslim camp was nearly breached. Women, wives, daughters, sisters, stood behind the lines, supporting the soldiers. But when the lines faltered, they picked up weapons themselves. And when the men considered retreat, the women forced them back, threatening them with blades. To the Rashidun, this wasn't just a battle. It was survival. And the women would rather die than be taken by the enemy. That image of veiled women brandishing swords against fleeing soldiers sent a shockwave through the ranks. Shame turned to fury, and fury turned to resolve. Day 5, Khalid finally made his move. He split his cavalry, sending them around the flanks while engaging the Byzantines head-on. It looked suicidal, but the real goal was to trap them. And then, when the Byzantines were too committed, he struck from all sides. Chaos, screaming, thunder, men crushed beneath horses, trampled by their own comrades. The Byzantines began to retreat, toward the river, toward the cliffs, and Khalid was waiting. On the 6th day, it happened. The trap snapped shut. The Byzantines, now disoriented and desperate, found themselves pushed against the edge of a deep ravine. The Yarmouk River swelled behind them. Some tried to escape by swimming. Most didn't make it. Others were cornered and slaughtered where they stood. Thousands fell from the cliffs, pushed, slashed, or leaping in despair. The river turned red. Not a metaphor, not an exaggeration. Bodies clogged the water. Eyewitnesses claimed the blood ran so thick it poisoned the flow downstream. It took days before the river returned to its natural color. And by then, an empire had been shattered. The Byzantine defeat was absolute. Of their 60,000, more than half never returned. Some accounts place the dead at over 50,000. The Rashidun lost only a fraction. But even they did not celebrate. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the general who had never lost a single battle, wept for the dead. Even he was shaken by the sheer scale of the slaughter. And he knew this was only the beginning, because this wasn't just a military victory. It was a civilizational turning point. With Yarmouk, the Muslim armies opened the gates to Syria, Palestine, and eventually Egypt. The Byzantine Empire would never recover its eastern territories. It limped on for centuries, yes, but its golden age was over. And the world map? It had changed forever. Yet Yarmouk remains buried beneath more famous battles. Ignored in textbooks. Erased from casual memory. Perhaps because it's too brutal. Too overwhelming. Too final. But the ground remembers. The river remembers. And for those who care to look deeper, Yarmouk was not just a clash of empires. It was the day belief met steel. The day faith became fire. And the day rivers ran red. Because history had been rewritten in blood. Now you know the story. But ask yourself, if this battle was so decisive, so brutal, why has it been forgotten? Maybe some stories are just too dangerous to remember.